Here is one of the most consistent negative patterns that I see in INTJs and other perfectionist types in relationship. Even though you are trying your best to be open-minded and to consider other possibilities, you can't help but feel like you know what's best, right? I know that that's hard to take in because you are someone who loves learning and you really want to be open-minded, right? But deep down, you know that you have thought it through. You have a mind that can see the goal clearly, that can zoom out, see the whole system at play, and you know what's most effective, right? You know what is most efficient here. And so if someone else has a different opinion, you can't help but judge them, even if you try not to, right? You try to be open, you try to be a good person, but some part of you can't help but judge them. So one example of this that's really common in a relationship where one partner is an INTJ is differences in how you handle time. So you have to be somewhere at 3 o'clock. And for the INTJ or the perfectionist, it might be very obvious that 3 o'clock means we have to be there by exactly 3 o'clock. So we are aiming to get there at 2:55. Right? To the other partner, especially if they are a P personality type, 3 o'clock might mean roughly 3 o'clock, maybe 3:02, 3:03. That's fine. No big deal. Right? But to you, it just feels so obvious. No, 3 means 3. What is wrong with you? Right? And so where you run into trouble is when you, without meaning to, blame them and judge them as inferior. Right? That the way that your mind has framed this is worse. Right? Especially when you act like it's obvious. Like any sane, intelligent person would see that 3 o'clock means 3 o'clock, not 3:02. And the tricky thing here is that you might be right. Right? You are a smart person who is able to see the bigger picture, see the impacts of actions, right? Much better than most people. So you might very well be right that this is the most effective, most, optimal approach. And even so, the way that you express that can still feel really crappy to the other person, even if you're right. Right? So, even if you're not using these words, if you bring the energy of, oh my God, what is wrong with you? Obviously, it means 3 o'clock. How could you possibly think a different time is reasonable? It says 3 o'clock. Right? Then they feel that energy directed at them. It feels like an attack. And then that makes them feel defensive. I have to defend myself against this attack. If instead you treated it not as an objective fact that your view is better, but instead as a preference, then that's going to feel much better to them. Instead of your energy being obviously this is the right approach, clearly anyone would see, any sane person would see this is right. If instead you framed it as, hey, this is my preference. This is what I like. This is important to me. Then that feels way easier to receive. Right? So instead of saying, obviously we have to get there by 3, you say, hey, it would mean a lot to me if we could get there a bit early. Would you be open to working together to leave on time so we can get there before 3? That would really help me feel comfortable and easeful. That feels way better to receive, right? Instead of the energy of like, what's wrong with you? Obviously this is right and you're wrong, right? That does not feel good. But, hey, could you help me? I would really like this. This would mean a lot to me. Wow, that makes me want to help you. All right? So, that time thing is one example, but it can apply to anything that feels obvious to you. Like, obviously anyone would put the dishes away in this way or in this amount of time. Obviously anyone would fill the dishwasher in this way or approach this task or this project this way. Clearly that is the most effective way to do it. Why would you do it any other way? Right? Again, even if you're right, it will still support both you and the other person if you frame it more as, here's the way I would like to do it, not this is the best way. All right? So I invite you now to just take a moment and really think, how does this apply to you in your life? What are some of the ways where you're a bit too rigid in thinking, obviously, this is the best way? Anyone would see this. Clearly, this is most effective. And instead, how could you reframe that as, this is my preference, this is my request, this would make me feel good, here's why this would help me de-stress, this would help me feel safe, right? How could you frame it as, could you do this for me? That would mean a lot to me. I invite you to practice that as soon as you can, with your partner or a friend or someone at work. Hope that helps. Love to hear from you in the comments. I wish you a nourishing day.